we were advancing so fast, we got on trucks at that time. And we started up the road, and there's German troops on both sides of the road. We went right, I guess we had scouts out. They were patching up German guys that had been wounded and all. But we ran across this camp, and it had a lot of barbed wire around it. And we knew it was some kind of prison camp, but we didn't know what it was. But we got there, and that's when we ran into a concentration camp. I didn't know what it was. I just saw these funny-looking people in these pajama-type clothing. And I'd never heard the word concentration camp, I don't believe. The hair's been shaved off. They had on filthy, these striped pajama-type looking things, and they didn't have any weight on them at all. I believe I could have taken a grown man and lifted him up with one hand. And one of the guys came back and said, they think these are a bunch of Jews. Well, that didn't make sense to me. Why Jews? I wasn't aware of all this semantic feelings about the Jews, you know. The buildings was made out of large, oversized brick. It had a door, but it had a doorway. It didn't have a door. It had windows, but no windows. It had a place for windows. And I walked in there. It didn't have a floor, dirt floor. Had straw on the floor, and there's men lying all over the place in there. And it was just unbelievable. I looked around in there and started out the back door, got back there, and there's a bunch of bodies stacked up in the doorway, and I couldn't get out. So I went back through the front door and went around to the back, and I saw 3 furnaces. I know I saw them because I remember wondering, what are they going to do with all this hot water? And the reason I had a flashback to my days in elementary school when my scoutmaster was the custodian at the school, and he hung out in what we call the boiler room. We had a boiler to heat the radiators, you see. So I know I saw these furnaces, but I couldn't figure out why in the world what was going to heat all that water for. But then I noticed how they were constructed, and I realized then and later that they were just had these bodies stacked up there to burn. I didn't realize what part of history I was witnessing, because I just couldn't. I was stunned, I guess you could say. I had no idea what in the world was going on there. They were more or less wanting to hug our necks, and we didn't want to get close to them, but they were just thrilled to see us. I remember seeing a pump. They had one water pump for the camp. I remember seeing a load of looked like iced potatoes just dumped over there in the courtyard. That's the only food I saw. But what got me was how these people looked. They had lost so much flesh. You could see the skull shape of a skull, and they began to look alike, you know, when they lost so much flesh off their skull. But I was just stunned. I had no idea what it was. And when the guy came by and said they thought they were Jews, I was, well, what's with the Jews?
Where were the guards? Were there any trains?
No, they were, no. Huh? They had one that was still there, and they were chasing him. The inmates was chasing him. Well, they killed some of them. But they had cleared out of there. The guards had cleared out. I remember on one side they had a few women there. I remember seeing some women, but the women looked like they'd been fed. But the men, they were just... General Gavin sent for a camera crew to come there, he couldn't get an American camera crew, so he got this French camera crew to come and take a picture of it. I saw him taking a picture of this German officer. We had some German officers to come there and witness what we'd seen. And I saw him filming this German officer, so I casually walked over close to him to really get into the picture. And I wrote my dad later on, I said, watch the newsreel, you might see me in the movies. But it was just unbelievable. But looking back, I'm so glad General Gavin got a movie, this film of that camp that we liberated, because I have a copy of that today. And that means a lot to be able to show people this camp that we liberated. Well, you couldn't give them food because they hauled them away in trucks and took them back, and they gave them probably some kind of soup with nothing in it. We had our mess hall, later on we had our mess hall in a railroad, part of a railroad building, next to railroad. And I remember the next morning, mess sergeant had forgotten some eggs someplace, fresh eggs. And he picked up one and it was cracked and he threw it out the window. I happened to be standing there. And about that time, I saw one of these inmates coming down the road. And he came there and saw that egg, bursted egg, on the ground. And he took it and raked it up, the shell and all, and ate it with his hands. That's another thing I won't ever forget. There's certain things that you don't forget.